Hello and welcome to Talkin Jake. Myself, Jake Storielli at Talkin Jake. Big baby David producing his butt off. June 19th. Kind of like a newer holiday in the U.S. Me and BBD are here grinding partially because I was going to come in yesterday. Did not. I am under the weather. But I had to talk about some sports. And we've got a big tournament at the warehouse this weekend. You can hear in my voice a little bit. If I pass out by the end of this, it's because I haven't spoken in 48 hours, which is very rare for a guy going by the name Talkin Jake. Want to deep dive on some baseball topics because the NL roller coaster of being boring and exciting is at a fun spot right now, partially. Because if you look at the standings today, my Arizona Diamondbacks have found their way into the playoff picture. On Talkin Baseball, I predicted by Monday they would be in the wild card because they had a kind of easier schedule, getting some bodies back, which I want to focus on that a little bit. And, I guess a little shrapnel early. If you go upwards in the standings, if you look at the bottom of the National League, Marlins and Rockies have been dueling. Fun one in Colorado last night, if you didn't see that. Check swing should have been called. I mean, it was close, but I think that gets called a decent amount. Would have ended the game. 2 strikes, 2 outs, 9th inning. One more pitch. Teoscar hits a grouchy home run. Really good Jake Cave reaction. Shout out to Luis Heel. Jake Cave watches the ball go over the fence and just starts screaming at the first base umpire. Why I'm talking Marlins and Rockies, because it's Marlins and Rockies. And then the team above them right now is the Chicago Cubs. I feel like we've talked about how bad the Cubbies have been. Is it a little unfair because they are a half game back of the Pirates, Reds, and Padres? Yes. So with 1 day's worth of action... They're right back in the mix, and that's been the whole National League topic, but I think I am going to grill the Cubbies a little bit. The New York Metropolitans are back in the mix. I did my Jakey little previous year research just to see where we are and where we're at, and a couple other things from around the league, while also circling on the Boston Celtics, my Boston Celtics that won it all. Congrats to them. Cool. Some funny Tatum memes on the internet. Not that I'm going to bring those to your attention, but whatever internet you may use, you may have seen them. Let's dive into the world of baseball. We also may get a live USA cricket reaction as they're battling South Africa right now. It's looking not so good.
It's possible.
But anything's possible. Let's get a couple more sixes on the board.
And they just hit 178 meters.
Boom.
They just need 42 on 15.
Boom. Get hot. Swing big, Lou. There's a wide. I guess let me do my NL thing a little bit. I want to do my Yankees standings check-in. I'll be honest, not a huge chunk of data that can be transferred over, / it doesn't fit whatever narratives I'm pushing right now. Because in the AL, coming from last year, at least, we were still waiting for the Yankees collapse, which happened right around this time. Aaron Judge broke his toe. He missed a chunk of the season. Rizzo hurt his head, and the Yankees didn't realize it yet. What else went wrong for the Yankees last year? I guess their pitching got thin. It was kind of in survival mode, and then it fell apart.
Especially just statistically, it was Cole and statistically nobody else was good. The vibe around anyone individually wasn't that bad, but probably got a round of injuries around here to that group.
The other thing that jumped out, which again, I don't ask me what to do with this one, but the Anaheim Angels were your 4th best team in the American League on this day last year at 41-33. My goodness. How quickly that changed from Ohtani's the best, the Angels have some juice, let's get Trout a playoff game. They bought then sold in what will be a Jolly Olive video in a couple years. Maybe Foolish Bailey, who We were trying to link up. He was busy, so he'll probably be on next week. Sorry for the fake advertising. He's got some thoughts. What a tease. I guess the only other thing I'd say, currently at this point, the weakest team to make the playoffs were the Twins, who were around 500, and they won a week Central, so that's a little bit of an outlier. Otherwise, in the AL last year, the last team in was Toronto. They were 39-35 last year. In the National League, something wrong with the Bay Area. I said I wasn't going to do this, but I guess I'll tell you why I chose not to. The San Francisco Giants were also fourth best record in the National League at 40-32. They ended up missing the dance, but no teams with an under 500 record. So maybe that's what you could put in your pipe and smoke, although I feel like the National League is going to ruin that this year, seeing as current playoff team. Technically, someone would have to. They don't have enough playoff teams above 500 right now. That someone under 500 will make the dance. So that is fantastic news. I do want to talk about the Cubbies a little bit in a negative light, and I'm sorry, Chicago. But you guys are probably willing to talk about Chicago in a negative light because, as I mentioned, as of today, they are the third worst team in the National League. And as I looked at last year's standings, they were the fourth worst. They were just covered up by St. Louis's stink, if you remember correctly from last season. The Nats, Colorado, and St. Louis, the only teams before Chicago. I think a yellow flag has already been up in Chicago, so I'm not going to raise a red flag, or I don't think this is a new piece of news, but Chicago's been thirsty for a few years now. I mean, when was the last time the Cubs were in the playoffs, BBD?
I think they were in the 2020 expanded playoffs.
So the Cubs were in the 2020 expanded playoffs, 34-26. Happy for them. The best WAR on their team was Yu Darvish. Baseball moves quick.
It's good that year.
They have not played a complete playoff series, if you take out 2020, since 2017. In 2018, they lost the one-game NL wildcard play-in to the Colorado Rockies. So think about that. Chicago Cubs, Wrigley. They beat the curse. They won a World Series. They had this core of guys, although I guess I shouldn't be penalizing the Cubs too much because out of that core, Rizzo has been really struggling, and he just went down for like 8 weeks, if not more.
Yankees immediately said 8.
So let's see what's going on with him, and he was not killing it this year either way. Javi Baez has just gone straight into oblivion. Chris Bryant has been in oblivion and seems happy there, and that seems like the problem. The only guy that you can say is killing it is Schwarber, which I think
who is the one the Cubs
right.
The one the Cubs fully gave up on.
If you were a betting person, Schwarber's lack of position body type would have seemed to run out first.
Love baseball.
That's baseball a little bit. That the Cubbies, man, they're in a tight spot, and we were so quick when they got out of the gates playing well. Let me see. What's their best butter knife? 17-9. Again, that's very early. That they were 23-16. That starts to get a little uglier. They're finishing a series with the Giants right now, which, again, I don't want to depict the Giants are this God-sent franchise. With a win today, they'd be a half game back of the Giants. The Cubbies, man, they Shota Imanaga signing has looked like one of the best signings of free agency. They looked like they had a plan to rebuild till right now. They still have a top juicy farm system that they haven't really tapped into, so let's see the next steps. And as I talk about how wide open this National League, genuinely, if the Cubs went on a 6-game win streak, they'd be in the playoffs. So I do want to be careful with how much I drive the stake into them right now. But it's been a while in Wrigley. Like, I've been tough on the Red Sox because Heim some time. They've got a similar thing, except with a fantastic run in 2021 to the CS. Outside of that, there's some parallels, but that's a pretty big notch to have in the belt. The Cubs have nothing close to that. That I don't know. I guess what I did want to compare it to, he's talking about the Yankees again. Last year when things fell apart with the Yankees, we do Talkin Yanks. It's kind of what started this company. And there's been a couple things that haven't passed our sniff test, and the Yankees have more or less adjusted. I mean, even the fact they called up a rookie to play first base yesterday who hadn't had a lot of minor league experience. He wasn't a top prospect. He's a guy that's been killing it at every level. That on a lot of other teams, you'd look at it and you'd be like, well, it's kind of a no-brainer. Like, this kid's been killing it.
The team's just like depth at that position isn't in some like crazy deep spot. The other options aren't there.
This kid seems like he's next. He's he's checked every box at the minor league level that he would be the guy to be called up. Yanks don't do a lot of that. Like, someone was texting me who went to the game last night, and I was like, yeah, I mean, Yankees, Orioles, first and second, that's kind of cool. But not a lot of Yankee position players make debuts. It's a little bit of an obnoxious thing. Or at least when they do, I don't know, it's a bigger thing because it's the Yankees. I think other teams get a lot more opportunities because other teams don't do most of their bidding in free agency or shopping. Like, Trent Grisham isn't a bench player on a lot of teams. Trent Grisham would have been a player that a lot of teams would have probably got as a dump in a trade, but they said, well, Trent Grisham's going to play for us this year. Like, that's the Yankees' bench outfielder. We want Soto.
Yeah. The Yankees typically, like you're saying, not a lot of position player debuts like that. Like, unless their hand is like absolutely forced. There were other moves they could have done to replace Rizzo on the active roster. Oswald Peraza at least, has some bench utility in his tool chest and has been in the big league locker room before. Like, they could have called him up and done some shuffling, and sure, he'll get some days versus lefties at third, and DJ can just be your first baseman and all that. They could have made a waiver claim or an actual trade for J.D. Davis, who was DFA'd. Still might, and there's an argument he'd be an upgrade on the roster spot, but it felt different to call up a kid who's been very exciting at the minor league level and has checked every box so far and really came on in the last couple years without that super highly regarded pedigree.
Our whole Talkin Yanks group chat was surprised. We didn't think they would do that. And so that's one of the things. I mean, the thing that has been a joke and we still get hot about was the Yankees didn't have lefties for a few years, a franchise literally built on lefties. I think one of the things that we think they've stumbled into now is that their whole bullpen has gone sinker slider, which is nice, and they get a lot of effective innings, but they don't have the strikeout guys when they need it. That's probably going to be next evolution for the Yankees. Lineup balance, not only didn't they not have lefties, but then when they only had a couple guys, they'd try to slide them up the lineup, which kind of made your whole team worse. I don't know. We've had a couple of these Yankee moments that from the fan zoomed out lens seemed off, and then they had to make that correction. I'm interested to see, and if there's Cubs fans listening, I guess let me know what I'm missing from the outside. This may be obnoxious. This may be nothing. This could be something that, again, with a 6-game winner can be ruled out, and like the Minnesota Twins just reeled off another 6 games. Although that left side of the infield, that's not only has that gone from meh to like special. What Correa and Royce Lewis are doing, the Yankees were very, and we see this all over baseball. When the front office has too much power, the Yankees had a little bit of that. Like, end of the day, the game is played with ball players, and a chunk of the reason the Yankees are better, they have Juan Soto, who's one of the best ball players ever. They trade for Alex Verdugo, really solid plus player. Luis Gil's breakout. A lot of the pitchers are performing better. Cubs thing that just irked me a little bit this morning, especially when I was looking at the standings. Do you guys remember they did Cubs Day or the Cubs Fan Fest, Cubs Winter Fest? The graphic came out and they tried to copy Lollapalooza, the big music festival in Chicago. Know who their headliners were? It was Jed Hoyer, the GM or president or whatever. He runs the team. And Craig Counsell, the manager they plundered from the Brewers, division rivals. How could Craig do it? Probably all the money. Team Craig on that part. But I don't know. I think it's one of those things in hindsight. It rubbed me the wrong way in the offseason. It always felt like they should have kept one of those guys from those Cubs teams. Like you had the Cubs team that broke the curse, and you didn't bank on any of them. And I don't know. Hopefully for Cubs fans, I'm misreading it, and the Cubbies are about to get hot after they've been cold. But I don't know. It feels like a team that's leaned a little too much into we can out-coach baseball, when at the end of the day, you need guys on the field. That's the difference. Go look at the Phillies roster. Go look at the Yankees roster. Go look at the Orioles roster. Go look at the Dodgers roster. Those teams all did it in very different ways, but they accumulated a lot of talent that I don't know. I think the Cubs, on paper this year, my whole thing, that part of it I've been wrong on. It was replacing Stroman, who was so good for them. And they did that with Imanaga, who's been better. And then Cody Bellinger, it was getting the lineup back to neutral. And they did that. But it hasn't been enough in an NL Central that probably what it is, there are a couple teams that can tip their hat and say that as a franchise, we operate a little better. It is and was the Rays, although they're pretty dearth of talent right now and they're heading the wrong direction. The Milwaukee Brewers, as a franchise, they're kind of running laps around the Cubbies right now. Sure, take our manager. We've got all these kids who are going to start performing because everyone we have plays defense. So when they hit, that's a plus, and they've been hitting a lot. And then the other turned out to be one of our favorite signings of the offseason, Rhys Hoskins. Haven't the Cubs had a hole at first base for a while? Could that have not been a great landing spot for Rhys Hoskins? I don't know if that's the difference between the Cubbies and Milwaukee right now, but looking at those standings, because I don't know, if you look at the bottom of the American League right now, White Sox, A's, Angels, I think everyone would have been pretty close on that. Maybe the Royals, who still in the playoff picture, and I want to do some playoff percentages in a second. But those bottom three seem to add up. Marlins, Rockies, Cubbies. Tough. Can flip in a moment of hours because the Pirates and Reds are right there. But I don't know which flavor of ice cream do you like more between the Cubbies, Pirates, and Reds right now? I mean, that's before you get to the Cardinals, who are 500, the second team in the NL wildcard right now. National League's still a mess. You could overanalyze it for hours. The hottest team in the National League is a team that has linked themselves to Grimace. That's right. The purple blob character from McDonald's. A W7 for the New York Mets, a team that I was writing off and was willing to sell because I think they want to sell. 35-37 has them a half game out of the wild card, 8-2 in their last 10, winners of 7 in a row. They face Texas again today, who, everyone's had a lot of eyes on Houston. Go check in on your Texas Rangers. They have the same record as of today, 33-40 for Houston and the Rangers, defending World Series champs, the team that's been to the ALCS pretty much every year. Houston playing the White Sox. Lost last night. Pretty insane. Pretty insane. I guess the other thing, just looking around baseball, not a ton of commentary on the good teams. I guess this I can segue into playoff percentages a little bit. Our friends over at Baseball Reference, they have a playoff odds page, which you can click and say, there's a button that says, learn more about our methodology. The main thing that I take away from it is they basically sim the seasons 1,000 times over, and that's how they get their results. So are there variables involved? Sure. And I think what I want to point to, especially in the National League wild card, where literally anything can happen, those Cubs that I just ripped into could be the second wild card team in a matter of a week. Health, you obviously can't prepare for that. And they were saying in their simulations, you know, they take into factor this season a lot, and they kind of can't take into factor previous injuries a little bit. I don't know. If you want to go click on it, it's their playoff odds page, and there's a learn more about their methodology. But I think there's some good that we can take on it in these 1,000 simulations, he says. He died at the desk that day. Teams, there are 4 teams with 99.9% postseason odds. What are those teams, David?
I would start with Dodgers and Phillies.
Yes.
The Braves?
Not the Braves.
Not the Braves. Well, I'll say Yankees.
Yankees.
I'm believing in funny business, but they're in. Okay.
And this is the only team that I would consider funny business, but it's not funny business.
Brewers?
It is not. The Brewers are at 99.6, so you get partial credit.
Upside down. It's a 9 now.
It's true. It's the Baltimore Orioles.
Oh, yes.
They, wild card withstanding, the Yankees and Orioles are 99.9% of the time they're going to make the playoffs in these 1,000 simulations. So, if I was... Sucks that this show's popular now. Thanks, everyone. I was going to say something like over the top. If blank happened to this team, that's the one simulation. I won't even make that joke. It has the worst case records. I don't know if I believe it this for the Orioles and the Yankees. 95 wins for the Yankees, 93 for the Orioles. Their best case at 110, 108 respectively. So
that's just a tight window.
The simulations have both those teams doing very well. I don't know about the bottoms there. I think a 91 could still happen. Anyways, Yankees, Orioles, Phillies, Dodgers, 99.9. Brewers, 99.6 to make the postseason. Again, they're sitting at 43-30 when I just told you 500 currently gets you in the playoffs in the NL. No real arguments there. You could put a baby asterisk that if things really fell apart for the Brewers and they get caught up in the slog, I'm not going to do that. They deserve compliments as a franchise. 3 teams in the 80s. Seattle Mariners. Sure. They are 44-31. They have no competition in the division right now. That
sounds right.
They're cruising. The Cleveland Guardians. Again, they've got a lot of wins in the bank, 44-26, that the wheels would just have to completely fall off. And in that division, I don't see a way that happens. Then the Atlanta Braves, 83.3%. I think the best thing they have going for them is the National League. At 40-31, they're not positioned too differently than the Yankees from last year. Huh? Gasp. The National League is on the struggle bus. The Braves haven't clicked. And like Austin Riley, Matt Olson, those guys are still there and they're going to click. 83.3 is still a high number. There's only 2 other teams above 50% chance to make the playoffs. So everything else is lower than a coin flip. And they play in the same division. The Kansas City Royals and the Minnesota Twins. So this is where I would argue with the simulation just a little bit. The Twins have been awfully streaky, and I was tough on them because they only had their wins basically over the White Sox and the Angels. That's the only reason they're above 500. That being said, all the other American League teams get to play those teams. And I think the biggest thing for me, seeing Correa and Royce Lewis actually do it. Obviously, Correa is playing over his skis right now, but his numbers are back to where Carlos Correa's numbers are. And he's still under 30. Like, we've just seen that guy for so long. It makes sense that he's playing well. And, as mentioned on Talkin Baseball, it does correlate with him shaking my hand. Royce Lewis, he's also a guy. So, this segues into two parts of the speeches. The Twins are very different than a Twins team you may have seen. And that left side of the infield, that just makes it so much. If they get anything from Santana, Polanco, Jeffers, Buxton, like with those two guys, then when one or two other guys on the team are clicking, they have a team. It is kind of a bummer, and thank you guys for your comments on last episode. That few Twins fans chimed in on the Pete Alonso, and they're like, the Twins aren't going to do that. Like, pay for a rental.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit on Talkin Baseball, and Trevor's like, they're not doing Alonso.
No,
all right.
It'll be on the margins. I think they'll add, and they'll play in player capital, but they don't have actual capital.
Yeah, Jolly, because we linked those two up yesterday.
Right.
He was sad at that reaction from Trev because he has a lot of Twins prospects he likes.
Oh, get out of here, Jolly. And thank you for filling in. The one team that looks a little sus to me is the Kansas City Royals at 77.6%. The Twins, they have a track record. There's an argument they underachieved up until this point, / health and players available. Royals, a little bit of the opposite. I think they've played above their skis pitching-wise, I think you could argue. Bobby Witt Jr. is that guy, so no knock on him. Love Vinny Pasquatch. Michael Garcia, Salvi Perez has been balling. We love that, and I do think they're going to add. I guess I would just say in the American League, the Red Sox have a little bit of juice now. They're 39-35. I think they're interested in being invited to the party table this year. And then the other thing that's rude to the Royals, because maybe I shouldn't be saying this, because it's both sides. There's a lot of teams we wanted to believe in, but it's how much longer can we believe in them. And just bumped my mic. The next real check-in point, and I think I bit my tongue. Oh my God. The next real check-in point is the All-Star game, which is under a month away. I'm guessing off the top of my head, teams probably have 21 games or so until the All-Star break. You kill those 21 games, I'm looking at you. Texas and Houston, 7 games below 500. I mean, you got to get hot in a hurry. Will the Tampa Bay Rays or the Blue Jays join the party? It's doubtful, but that's a crew of 4 teams in the American League that we've wanted or expected to have the good juice, and they've got till the break to do it. So if you have 21 games, can you put up a 15-6 and rejoin the party? Would love to have you. And then I think it turns into a big chase of the Twins or the Royals, which both have some collapsibility. Not sure if that's a word. But it'll be interesting to track as we move forward. And I thought it was funny, as I told you, no teams. Those are the last teams. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 teams have above a 75% chance of making the playoffs. That's pretty good. Could see one of them dropping out. Why not? It's baseball. No other teams above 50%. The team with the next highest playoff percentage, Beebs, in a rude way, I will give you a guess. But
I do have it in front of me right now.
Well, if I had given you a guess, though, I don't think you're getting that.
I don't think I would have said that team.
I probably would have guessed the Padres, who are the second best one.
I think they are who I'd have guessed.
Percentage points ahead of them, Grimace's New York Mets. So, hey, maybe this formula likes a win streak a little more because that has some correlation to having a winning season. But the New York Mets are back at the party. Happy for them. Happy for Mets fans. I saw Jolly was tweeting out stats how June has historically always been their worst month, and they're having a great June. So who knows? Who knows what's in that recipe in that pot of coffee? But I don't know. The NL is going to be a disaster, and it's going to be interesting to see which GMs push the trigger in any direction. Because it should be, if you're a seller, feels like a year you could clean up. But you better have some really good job security to do that. Because otherwise, it can happen fast in baseball. And if you sell this year and your team struggles next, you could be out. Hey, let's go Snakes. I guess that's the clothing. He's losing it. The closing thing I want to talk about. With Royce Lewis and Correa and the Twins, a lot of this is going to be dictated by health. And I know that's such a cop-out answer. But the two biggest things coming up are health and the trade deadline. With how tight things are, if you add the right piece and a couple pieces are healthy, like the Twins without Royce Lewis at this point, count me out. And I know baseball's not a sport that's supposed to be treated that way, but I am. Like, Royce Lewis is currently a difference maker on that team and in that division. The Mets, like JD Martinez balling out, has been pretty helpful for them. That was a nice little ad. So let's see. Let's see. Health, unfortunately, is going to dictate this. Like the Arizona Diamondbacks, they've been playing a better brand of baseball. They got their shortstop back, Perdomo. They've gotten some pitching out. Monty has started to pitch better. Like, circling all the way back to the Cubbies. And by the way, at that Cubs Fest, they had their star players there. Dansby was there. Happer was there. I think Ryan Sandberg. Like, they had Hall of Famers there. Fergie Jenkins is everywhere. Jom's Fergie Jenkins. Take paper out of baseball. Having the guys, the Jimmies and Joes still matter a lot in this sport. And that's going to dictate it the rest of the way. So excited to see, as we've talked about, the GMs that make the moves at the deadline. And your team's health needs. I guess, hey, if you've got some health concerns or guys coming back on your team that you think are going to be significant, comment below, because I'd love to hear. And speaking of comment below, a couple from last episode, we talked about Josh Rojas, potential Ryan McMahon trade. Apparently, he's been killing it at third base. Third best for MLB third baseman in OAA, and our guy Ryan Batiste said it passed the eye test. He keeps saying, how'd he do that? Some good baseball jargon. And a lot of Mariners fans chimed in and said that they have a lot of needs before you get to Ryan McMahon, who, again, might not be on the trade block, that they pointed to, like, Taylor Ward, Brent Rooker. That was my guy, Podunk Party, who commented that. Along with Jess Lyons. So, hey, Mariners fans, I see you. And then I mentioned a couple of the Twins fans that were like, Alonso's not going to happen. And everyone poo-pooed the Dodgers 10-person trade. Because, I don't know, got to be honest. I think my guy Bowden, America's GM, was trying to just get a couple clicks. And it worked. Mm-hmm. He got a whole podcast on it.
Yeah. Kind of too.
Yeah. Yeah. Overpay for Severine. Brandon leading this one live. Oh, he's saying that everything's an overpay or a bad fit. So just one last trash on the article on the way out. But thank you guys for getting involved and subscribing. Sneaking up on 20K subs on the YouTube channel. So if you guys haven't checked us out there, please go do that. We would appreciate it. Subscribe, like button, all that good stuff. Bake the algorithm. Real ones know. Whew. Let's finish up. Team USA lost the cricket match. Sorry, but we're building on it. let's finish up with some NBA as the finals concluded, and your Boston Celtics, after getting blown out in Game 4, did they figure it out? They put the business down on the Mavericks in good Celtics style. I mean, the game was tight in the first quarter. They finished that with a 9-0 run, which made it feel not tight. They kept it going on and on, stretching the lead to about the 20 range, 15-20. Peyton Pritchard with the half-court shot, which makes you believe like they're just going to burn down the city and this is how it has to end. And it did. The Celtics win. Couple things. As I've mentioned, I'm a bit of a Boston hater. I am a Yankees fan. I'm here wearing my UConn National Champ shirt and my Huega House hat that Jake Cronenworth convinced me to buy. If you know, you know. The Celtics for me, and I went on this final rant a couple episodes ago where I was like, hey, I want to see them get tested and I want to see them pass the test because people have talked a lot of junk on Boston. And they passed the test with flying colors, that they didn't have to do the 2-2 home court season on the line game. They didn't have to go back to Dallas. 3-2, potentially a Game 7, a historic Game 7. They didn't have to do that, and that's because they were the better team. Sure, was the East thin this year? Yeah. Were people expecting the Nuggets to come out of the West, and were they a worse matchup for Boston? Probably. But they didn't. And in the words of the great Joes McFly, that's none of their business. And it really isn't. They had a great season, historic win total, historic playoff run. Doesn't matter who's in front of you, take care of it. And they're hoisting the trophy, and they're back. And you heard me doing a little bit of this. I'll never be the biggest Tatum guy, and maybe that's a flaw for myself. And Zoe from We Got Ice is our biggest public-facing Celtics fan in the office. And Tatum's his favorite player ever. And there's some funny things about it, and it's new age athletes and it's new age fans that, like, Zoe has said multiple times, and he'll say it on here, he's like, I know that Tatum's going to end up being a Laker. And again, for fans from the past, that is blasphemous. That is anarchy. You can't do that. And again, I mentioned some of the Tatum internet memes of, everyone was saying he was recreating everyone else's championship celebrations. Hey, whatever, man. He's 26 years old. That's before a lot of really good players have won their title. And yeah, the Tatum Brown thing, I want to see the next steps, like the Jason Kidd quote that Brown is the better player. There was some more rooted stuff on that. Kidd and Jaylen Brown are both Cal guys. Both went to University of California. And I don't know. I think Jaylen Brown's skill set, and again, I don't know, Batman Robin, Batman, whatever it is. Jaylen Brown had some moments in this playoffs, and he wins Finals MVP, which again, I think for us Tatum outsiders can be tough because the guy idolizes Kobe. He's a Celtic wearing Kobe's Lakers purple. Like, Celtics and Lakers are never supposed to overlap. The Celtics did get penalized, and this isn't my take, it's Russillo's, that this whole process got started early. Like, they made the 2018 finals, I think it was, which was a finals they weren't supposed to make. So they were like ahead of schedule there, where then people have you on a certain timeline that they weren't supposed to be on that timeline. So am I probably one of those people? Yeah. I mean, yes. And I admit there's a biased New York side to it. Here's what I will say. And I said this, I forget if it was after the first game of the series or before the series, because I mentioned I'm naturally born a not Boston cat. Fan media. That's what we're doing here. When I went through the roster, Jaylen Brown I like. Man, he's got a turbo button. He's got a turbo button that not a lot of players have. There's a couple times he just took the lane, and we remember the dunks, but there's a couple others that were just like, wow. Like it almost looked like he moved superhuman on the court and was pretty electric. He made a bunch of big shots for them. He wins the finals MVP. That guy plays defense. That guy's a dog, and maybe it's my speech about expectations in life. If you go to the movie theater and you go to see a movie and you're not really sure it is, your buddy wants to see it, and you love the movie, you go, oh my God, that was the best movie ever, bro. That movie was awesome. I didn't even know what I was expecting to see. That movie was crazy. You go in to see a movie that people tell you is the best movie you've ever seen. I've got two examples. One that lived up to it, The Hangover. When I went to see The Hangover, I went to see it a little late. A lot of people had already seen it, heard it was hilarious. I came in, the first couple of minutes of the movie, I was sitting there kind of angry old man, arms crossed. Spoiler, when they're on the rooftop in Vegas, and he slices his hand open to do Blood Brothers, I spit out my drink, and then my guard was down, and I was able to enjoy the rest of the movie. Like, I just thought that was so perfect. Other side of that, Tropic Thunder. I am, like, such a big Jack Black fan. I love all the characters in that movie. Robert Downey Jr., Stiller, the guy from the baseball HBO show, blanking on his name right now. But it had all the funny, like it had all the funny people I was into at the time that I went in hoping to see like my favorite movie ever. And it's not. Like, it's funny. I deserve myself a rewatch because I remember rewatching it once and I was like, okay, this was better than I remember. But Tatum had the expectations. Brown hasn't. So again, where on that scope do my true opinions lie? My heart's open to it the rest of the way. I'm interested to find out because I think the Brown over Tatum argument has a little more juice than people are saying. Zoe keeps comparing Tatum to Tim Duncan, which breaks my brain. I don't see that at all. I see more of like maybe like a Tracy McGrady with a winning team environment around him. I don't know. And then the other thing when you go through the roster, and this is what I did that I was referencing before, Drew Holiday, you have to love. Like, all-time guy. And we mentioned Iguodala. There's a few other guys on that team. David West, I don't know. Maybe not. I mean, the guy who's probably now chasing Drew Holiday. Who's my guy that got his teeth knocked out? Gabe?
I'm lost.
I can't believe I'm blanking. Everyone else underestimates him, and now I've forgotten his name, which makes it even more perfect. Derek White.
Oh.
I was going to call him Gabe White. I was thinking of Gabe Pruitt, old Celtics roster. Go check that out. Derek White is like Drew Holiday. Like, I don't know if that comparison gets made. I'm assuming it has, but I think they're the same height. Like, they can both get buckets. They can both pass. They both rebounds. They both play defense. Like, I think Gabe White is currently entering the all-guy team draft. What'd you just laugh at?
Called him Gabe again.
Did I call him Gabe White? Why do I have Gabe on the mind? I'll tell everyone why I have Gabe on the mind. It's a really bad story, and I'll tell it at the end of this. I like Derek White, even though I just accidentally insulted him this whole segment. I mean, how could you not?
No way he wants to be Gabe.
No. Gabe's a bad name. Derek's a great name. Derek White. His game's really nice. Like Pritchard and Hauser, that's for South Boston. Al Horford, a historical good basketball player. He might be the center on that all good guy team. Like, is he the center with Drew Holiday and Iguodala? Mm-hmm. Maybe. Like, it's crazy him doing what he did in these playoffs at age 100. He's 38. Sorry, Al. But also, I'm a college basketball fan. I'm wearing my UConn shirt. Al Horford was on arguably one of the best college basketball teams ever. He was on the Florida back-to-back champs. Like, that guy's basketball pedigree is all-time. All-time. Him, Noah Brewer, like, everyone was looking at that team like, who was going to come out? I mean, Horford wins. Noah's peak an interesting argument.
You got at least one defensive player of the year, but yeah.
The career is unmatched. That I guess there's a little bit of Tatum that I'm going to leave my heart open for the rest of his career. Some of the step-back threes are bad, whatever. I've taken bad shots too. Interested to see the next steps for him. But you kind of have to give love to this Celtics team. Brad Stevens, who's got one of the craziest basketball careers ever, he's like the final architect. Mazzulla, full-blown kind of weird guy, but gets it done, and he's seemingly one of the best coaches in the league. Hearing him talk about how they were going to use Chris Stapps in Game 4 was pretty cool if they needed him. I respect what the Celtics did this year, he said through gritted teeth. And like a lot of the players, even Chris Stapps, I mean, there's some good Knicks memories in there with some of the bad ones. That they deserved it. They crushed the East, and they crushed in the finals. No playoff series went to 6 games. It's impressive stuff from the Celts. Interested to see where the offseason goes in the NBA. There's always some of the best drama. That's where the NBA wins. Here's the bad story to finish it before we thank Dan Patrick. I went to a diner in Boston. God, what year is it? It might be 2015, 2014. And we went to a diner outside of Boston. The boys are bopping. Probably had a couple drinks the night before. We're loading up. Eggs, pancakes for the table, all of it. And I think we're talking some hoops at the time. I should probably see when Gabe Pruitt was on the Celtics because that helps the story. But our waitress, Gabe Pruitt was on 07-08. Okay, so this story goes back a couple more moons than I expected. This is when I'm in college. My God.
Nickname Smiling Gabe.
The waitress, and again, when you're a little hungover and the vibes are high, things hit a little differently. The waitress said, we were talking Celtics, and she goes, I saw Gabe Pruitt at the club last night. And it just hit us really hard because we were like, there's one place Gabe Pruitt should not have been last night. And it was at the club. So sorry for comparing Derek White to Gabe Pruitt, who Gabe Pruitt had a lackluster NBA career. And Derek White lost one of his teeth in the final game. Has gone full beard, bald guy look, which is always crazy when someone really leans into that. But he's an absolute baller. So I disrespected him even more by trying to represent him. Good Colorado boy. We like that. So that's the episode today. Congrats to the Celtics. I guess we'll see. I mean, no football updates soon. No. NBA free agency kicks off pretty quick, right?
Yeah, NBA draft, which this year.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Not as exciting.
They'll have free agency coming up.
Siakam extension. We thank you guys. We will see you guys on Monday. Send them, Beebs. Go baseball.
Talkin Jake is a production of Dan Patrick Productions, John Boy Media, and Workhouse Media.